So today I'm sitting down with Joe Woodhouse, who is a financial advisor. So we're going to talk about different ways, tricks and tips of how to become better with money. So whether that's either paying off credit card debt, generally just investing and what to invest in, the do's and don'ts when it comes to saving money, and just overall how to become better with money. I know unfortunately for a lot of people that financial pressure and financial stress has a profound effect on their mental health. So I'm hoping this video is going to help you become better overall with your finances. Hope you enjoy. So thanks for coming along today. Really appreciate it.
Likewise.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Joe Woodhouse. I'm a financial advisor. I'm a massive fan of just keeping things as simple as possible, and I think that's what sort of resonates with a lot of sort of my audience and sort of following on social media platforms, is that I'm quite direct. I sort of seem to call it how it is. I'm just a normal person, really. I've made a mistake that you can and learn from it, hopefully. So that's me.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, like I said, thank you for coming along today. The reason why I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you, obviously, you know what you're on about with financial advice and everything with that also. The biggest thing for me, or one of the biggest things for me, when it comes to people struggling with their mental health, is I find that they're struggling financial, and that financial stress is putting stress on their mental health. So I wanted to have a conversation with yourself to see what advice, what pointers, what tricks and tips could you give somebody that isn't very good with money to become better with money, so therefore it then helps them with their mental health.
Okay. All right, so I think for me a big thing of it is, and this goes against popular belief, I actually had a conversation with someone about this earlier in the week and got called patronising for it, but I think the first thing that you need to do is take responsibility.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
And I think a lot of people need to realise that where you are in life is down to the choices that you've made to get you to that point. So
100%.
If you're fat, if you're overweight, that's because of the life choices that have got you there. If you're unhappy with your job, if you're unhappy with your life, that's because of the choices you have made in life to get you to that point, which, again, to a certain extent, and I know there's an exception to every rule, but for 99.9% of the population, if you're in your mid-30s and you're in debt, or you're skint, or you've got money problems, that's because of the choices that you have made that have led to that point. So I think the first thing is that you need to take responsibility for it, own it. And I don't just say this to trigger people. I find there's something very liberating when you stop pointing at everyone and everything else.
Yeah.
It's because of government cuts, it's because of what's happening, it's because of the recession, it's because I got divorced 10 years ago. I think the second that you actually own that, it's very empowering because it gives you that power back.
Yeah, definitely.
Blaming other people, you've got no control of that. So I think that's the first thing, is just taking responsibility. And then really it's a case of drawing a line in the sand. And I find a lot of stress and anxiety and problems that people have around money comes from arguing with reality. So take responsibility, realise it is your fault, but then secondly, it's a case of drawing a line in the sand. Like I've spoke to people before about money guilt, and I know a lot of people get at Christmas. So they spend too much money at Christmas, then they feel guilty about it in January. It's like, oh, you've done it, it's gone. There's nothing you can change or bitch or moan about that's going to go back in time and change that. So draw a line in the sand today and put a plan in place. And that may be that, but the first thing you need to do is do a budget and work out what money's coming in and work out what money's going out and trim the fat. So go through your direct debits, and I can guarantee, and I do this exercise every now and again, and I always find stuff, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
And there'll be stuff on your direct debits that you have no idea what you're paying out. So straight away get rid of those. Get rid of any unnecessary expenditure that you've got, and doing a budget, for me, it's just telling your money where to go instead of your money controlling you. So again, keep a money diary and just write down what you're spending money on for the month, and it'll frighten you. And it certainly did me the first time I went through this exercise. So it's really not actually knowing what's coming in, what's going out, and then tackle whatever problem comes first. So look, if you're in debt, the first thing you need to do is get that debt cleared off. And I find the best way to do that is something what's called a snowball method. So if you've got 5 credit cards and the minimum payment on all those cards comes to £100 a month, yet you can afford to pay £200 a month off your debt, pay the minimum payment on all 5, and whichever is the lowest outstanding amount, put the additional £100 on that. And do it every single month. And but most importantly is make it automated. Don't do it the day before you get paid with whatever you've got left. No, you do it the day after payday. And that money's then gone, and then you live off what's rest. And then when the lowest debt, number 1, is cleared, you put that extra £100 plus whatever payment you paid on that, 10, 20 quid a month, onto debt number 2. Then onto debt number 3, and so on and so forth. And you get this sort of snowball effect.
I can see that been a massive help to a lot of people.
Oh, it's huge, yeah. And again, and psychologically as well, and I know there's sort of different trains of thoughts with this. Some people say you should pay off the highest interest first. But for me, just clear off your smallest outstanding debt. Because the psychological win of, I did have 5 credit cards, I've now got 4. It's massive. And then I did have 4 credit cards, I've now got 3.
What's your advice with credit cards? Because I remember I got my first credit card when I was probably 20, 21, and I got it on the basis that I wanted to build up my credit score, but then quite quickly got into a bad cycle of spending too much money that I didn't have, and then built up a lot of credit card debt that I couldn't afford to pay off. And then I did a balance transfer, and then I did another balance transfer, and then you're just paying off balance transfer after balance transfer. So what would your advice be to somebody that, 1, probably wants to build up the credit score, but 2, doesn't want to have massive credit card debt?
Get a credit card, put 1 bill on it, and then have a direct debit at the end of every month to pay that bill, and then cut the card up.
Easy.
Just simple as that.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Otherwise, look, it's too easy, innit? Like, it's too easy just to hand your card over. You're not going to do that anymore, you just tap your phone.
It gets easier as the years go on.
Yeah.
It gets so much more easier to spend money as time goes on.
And I say this all the time to people, like, if you had a wad of cash, if you had your monthly salary in cash, handing over 200 quid for a t-shirt or a shirt,
you wouldn't do it, would you?
You'd think twice about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Or I just tap my phone on it and it's done.
I always used to go out with cash in my wallet on a night out because I'd see how much I was giving for a round of drinks, and I'd be like, well, you haven't bought me a drink all night, you can fuck off. Whereas now, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. And then you don't see it because it's not a tangible transaction. Yeah. And then you look the next day at how much you spent, you think, fuck.
Yeah, I'm saying when I go to races, I've got my beer money and I've got my gambling money. It's just if I have too much beer, they sometimes get a bit crossed over.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly the same. So it's that sort of stuff. So yes, credit cards are great for building credit if you use them responsibly.
Would you say there's another way? I know there is other ways, obviously paying off direct debits that you've got, but would you say to somebody who's young, who's wanting to get on the property ladder, that wants to build up a good credit score but doesn't want to get a credit card because they know psychologically that that's probably not going to end well, knowing what their spending habits are, is there ways of probably saying, this is another way to build up your credit score without a credit card?
Yeah, so having worked for a bank, I know how the systems work, and especially like when I used to work at Lloyd's TSB back then, we had a thing called MRBs, monthly range balances. So you could click on something and you'd have these columns on this chart, and it'd tell you money in every month, money out every month, average balance, highest balance, and lowest balance, and that of the bank account. And that essentially was how the internal credit system, a large majority of that worked at Lloyd's.
Right.
The computer system, which is probably a lot more advanced now than it was 15 years ago when I was there, just scanned that.
Right.
And little things like, if every month, if your average balance was increasing, tick. If every month you got a stable income coming in, tick. If every month your average balance was dropping, cross. Because again, it looks to a computer system that you're spending more money. If every month your minimum balance was minus 500 quid, even though you've got a pre-agreed overdraft, guess what? The system don't like that.
Yeah.
Because you cannot afford your lifestyle according to that computer system. So it's having a stable income, it's having it's making sure you've got money in your account at the end of the month before payday, and that you're not going to zero every month.
That's interesting, because I bet a lot of people wouldn't have known that.
No, and a lot of lenders will look for that as well. So when you go for a mortgage, the first thing they say, especially if it's your first mortgage, right, send us 6 months, send us 12-month bank statements. So this is one for the gamblers as well. If you are applying for a mortgage, leave the William Hill Bet 365 accounts alone, because they hate that sort of stuff on your statements.
Another one definitely not to get is a CCJ.
Well, yeah.
But I bought a new house a couple of months ago, and I had real issue getting my mortgage. One, because I just took over the family business. I'd gone from a 10% owner to a 30% owner. So in the eyes of a lender, I'd gone from employed to self-employed.
Yeah.
My credit score was great. I'd built it up. Despite putting a lot on my credit cards when I was younger, I always paid them off without missing a payment. So I did have a good credit score. And anyway, we're going down this process of X, Y, Z, and then thinking, right, buzzing. You know, it was a relatively expensive house, so I knew it was going to be a little bit difficult to get the mortgage. And then my mortgage advisor rings me and says, "Do you know you've got a CCJ against your name?" I'm like, "No." I went to, first of all, what the fuck's a CCJ? I'd never even heard of one before. And they're like, "Yeah, you've got a CCJ." And I went, what could that be for? I haven't got any criminal convictions or anything like that. And he went, "It might be for a parking ticket." So I'd got a CCJ for a £40 parking ticket 3 years ago. And that almost cost me the mortgage.
Really?
Yeah.
But again, a lot of stuff like that, it's sort of computer says no, but then you can appeal it. And a lot of the time they do take common sense approach with it.
I paid it off within a week, so the CCJ got removed. But despite that, my credit score still halved.
Yeah, that I think it stays on for, I think it's 7 years.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Which is not ideal.
And especially, I was saying to you, obviously, I want to invest in more property. It's going to be a nightmare, potentially for me, because I'm...
Yeah. But I mean, look, at the same time, like I said, a lot of lenders do accept that...
They look at it logically.
Does the story make sense?
Yeah.
So you should be all right with that, to be fair. But yeah, like I said, it's a big thing. First thing you need to do is pay your debt off. And again, and this is, I think, this is where a lot of people struggle to pay the debt off or have got in over the head with it. I think that's where a lot of the money worries and the money stresses come. But I mean, the thing I would say is, if you can't afford your debt, don't just ignore it. Don't just bury it in the sand.
Yeah.
Speak to the people you owe the money to, because again, don't get me wrong, they want the money back, but at the same time, they're realistic. They know that if you go to them and say, "I can only afford X," and they tell you to piss off, they're not going to get anything. So a lot of the time, the lenders will work with you, or they'll pass you on to their collection agencies, a third-party agency, which will work with you and help you go through a budget and help you work out what you can afford. Because again, at the same time, they'd rather have you own this, but they'd rather get this instead of this.
Rather than zero.
Yeah. So, against sort of popular belief, the banks aren't out to get you. Like I said, granted they want the money back, but they will work with you as much as possible. So it's really just communicate with them.
And again, it's about being accountable for your own actions and basically saying, right, I've done this is my fault, now I need to take action and go talk to somebody about it. And I always say this in sales, in my job, I speak to other sales reps and I say, people, if you ask for help, if you start a conversation, I just wonder if you can help me please, they will help you. 99.9% of the time, somebody is willing to give you a hand. So just like you said, take responsibility for your actions, be accountable for every situation you've got yourself in, but ask for help. And like I said, 99% of the time, someone will.
Yeah, 1,000%. Or on the flip side of that, if you go in being a dick, this is not my fault, this is not this, it's my ex-husband, it's my ex-partner, it's not my debt. Well, it's in your name, so it is your debt.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who spent it, it's in your name, so you need to pay it.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, is, like I said, owning it.
One thing that I've started getting in the last couple of years, and I know a lot of my friends has, is investing ourselves personally. So on Trading 212, on Robinhood and stuff like that. And I know now I'm doing quite well. I've made a little bit of money from it. But initially, I'd started day trading in lockdown. Didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. Lost 1,500 quid on one trade. And I'm like, wow, I'm not doing that. My stepdad used to be a financial advisor, and he said, look, that's very, very risky. Don't do that, do this. So I do my own investing strategy, But for someone starting out that, you know, wants to start putting a little bit of money away, knows that the bank is not getting them much interest, what else would you recommend?
First thing I recommend is, and again, I think this is where a lot of people sort of run before they can walk. So the first thing I tell anyone to do, the first thing you need to do is get 6 months expenses in a separate bank account, okay? Because having what I call an emergency pot, so that's if your boiler breaks down, if your car breaks down, family emergency, you get a leak in your kitchen, whatever it may be, that's having money there should the shit hit the fan.
So 6 months?
6 months expenses, yeah. So if you're earning £4,000 a month and you're spending and you're saving 500 quid a month, guess what? You're spending £3,500 a month. So you need six months worth of £3,500 a month in a bank account. Yes, it's not going to earn you interest. Yes, you're going to lose money to inflation to it, but if you do not have that and something goes wrong, guess what you've then got to do? You've got to go back to your credit card. What's just taking you 4 years to pay off? Yeah. So the difference between having that emergency pot and not having it is the difference between a small financial road bump and it completely derailing the rest of your life.
Interesting.
So the first thing I'd tell anyone to do is get that emergency pot. Second thing I tell people to do, or even at the same time, is insurance.
Sorry, just a quick one.
Yep.
So the emergency pot that you spoke about.
Yep.
So I know a lot of people obviously will try and put some sort of money away every month, but I know a lot of people and a lot of friends that will put so much away every month, and then they'll get to a month where, for example, Christmas, and they'll have more presents to buy, and then they'll dip into this emergency fund. Is there any way or anything you could potentially do to put money away into an emergency fund that you then can't touch, and then unless it's an absolute emergency?
Yeah, so well, first things first, Christmas is not a financial emergency.
No, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
So that, like you say yourself, that shouldn't come from your emergency pot. That should be in your Christmas pot or your holiday fund or whatever you want to call it. So, and again, I spoke about this last week actually, so it's a little bit late to do it now in this year, but if you know Christmas is going to cost you 2,000 quid.
I remember the video.
In January, put 200 quid a month away.
Yeah.
And then come next November, December time, the money's already there, what you can dip into. And do that by having a separate bank account and make you save it and have it automated. So the day after payday, 200 quid leaves your account and automatically goes to that account. You don't have a card for that account. You don't have any way of accessing that money other than having to transfer that into your main current account to then spend it. Because again, hopefully, the process of having to do that and just that extra little step and that extra little hurdle will make you think twice before you go out and buy that extra TV that you don't really need. Or you go and get the latest iPhone when yours is perfectly fine. Now, if you can afford that, great, but if you can't afford it, don't fucking buy it.
Yeah.
Is my view on things.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would have that separate to your emergency pot. And again, same when you're building how to build an emergency pot. If you can save 300 quid a month towards your emergency pot, have that on a standing order. So the day after payday, 300 quid leaves your account and it automatically goes into your emergency pot. And if you are the sort of person that then dips into that and uses that on the third weekend of the month because you're going out on the lash with the lads or the lasses and you've not got that money in your current account and you just dip into that, if you can't trust yourself with it, have it in a separate bank. So walk across to your NatWest, your RBS, your HSBC, open a bank account with them, cut the card up so you've got no access to it, don't even register for online banking, but then have the standing order leave your main current account and go into that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
so then you have to physically cross the road, drive into town, park up, pay 3 quid to park your car, walk into the branch, queue up for half an hour to get your money out. It just, for me, it's just giving yourself that extra hurdle. So it's not just...
And then it makes you think twice about doing it.
Yeah, so it's not just tapping your phone on a screen.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's brilliant, yeah. Perfect. So then, from that then, so let's say we built up our emergency fund, we built up our Christmas fund, you've got a bit of money that you then want to invest. You're thinking about crypto, you're thinking about the stock market, you're thinking about NFTs, I saw your video on that.
Don't do that.
Where do you start? As a complete newbie, if you want to invest I know you said you want to build up an emergency fund, but having money in the bank, you're losing money to inflation, the interest rates are shit. What do you invest in as a newbie?
So, I think first of all you need to work out why you're investing. Because if you don't have a why wrapped around it, if you don't have a fixed goal in mind, the first time the markets are a little bit rocky, the first time that things look a little bit, first time you're reading the news, there's a recession coming, you'll be dipping into it. Okay, so that's the first thing. So you need to work out why you're investing, whether that be that you want to start a business in 10 years, whether that be that little Jim is 3-year-old and you want him to be able to go to university when he's 18. So whether it be your own retirement or the exit from the business. So that's the first thing you need to work out, is what the goal is. And you need to paint the picture of what that looks like. What do you want? What sort of lifestyle do you want? How much is that going to cost you? How many hours a year do you want? What sort of house do you want? What sort of car do you drive? How often do you want to change the car? So it's all these sort of things, and then putting a figure around that, which will scare you, because it will be a lot bigger than you've ever thought it would be. But then once you know that, again, like I say, it's empowering taking that responsibility. Once you know that figure, you can then funnel that back to today. And simple maths, and this is where sort of the first stage I go through with clients to build a proper financial plan, is work out what that is. We then funnel it back to today. And it may be that that means you need to invest 500 quid a month. It may be that you need to invest 1,000 quid a month, okay? And then, like I said, knowing that if you don't save that 1,000 quid a month, little Jimmy ain't going to university when he's 18. Or he is, but he's going to have to get 3 part-time jobs to pay for his digs, to pay for his living costs. Again, knowing that should then help keep you on track. And what to invest in, for most people, I believe that 99.9% of the planet should not buy individual stocks and shares, shouldn't buy individual companies. Out of all the billion companies out there, what makes you believe you know which 4 or 5 are the best ones to buy?
What about Facebook at the moment, where it is?
Again, I'm going to comment on that, right? But for me, instead of buying 1, 2, 3, 4, because the sort of money that most people can invest per month, you can only afford to buy 2, 3, 4 companies. So instead of doing that and turning into a day trader overnight, part-time alongside your full-time plumbing job, just buy a fund what tracks the entire market. So invest in a fund what tracks the market.
And is that, and again, this is me knowing a little bit about it, so that is more than, say, the index 100 or the S&P 500, or are you talking about?
Yeah, so if you look at the FTSE 100, which is the UK's 100 largest companies, you can buy a fund what tracks the FTSE 100.
Yeah.
So
you're saying invest in that as opposed to individual stocks?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So then you get the growth of the markets, but you're reducing your risk. Because again, let's talk Facebook. Let's say Facebook went pop tomorrow and you've got shares in Facebook. Your money's gone. Everything's gone. You've lost everything, okay? But if you invest in a FTSE 100 tracker and one of those companies goes pop, it's only going to affect the fund on a minute scale, because it may only have 1, 2, 3% holding within that one company. So I suppose the age-old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, yeah.
I need to learn a lesson on that. But obviously I've got trading 212 and I've been very interested in stocks and shares and investing for the last couple of years. And I do put money in an S&P 500 fund, but I also do a lot with individual stocks. Yeah. One that's doing absolutely horrendous at the minute is Coinbase. So I've put probably about $5,000 in that when the IPO went live. And I'm not even going to sell now, because I just think, what's the point? I may as well, if it goes to zero, then I'm not far off there anyway.
Well, 9 months before we got married, she's going to kill me for telling this story again. 9 months before we got married, I got a hot tip from a mate in the industry, a very good friend, and of a oil exploration company. I'm not going to tell the name of the company, but an oil exploration company, and they just found oil. They found the huge oil field in Kazakhstan.
Right.
And it were going to go silly. So I put the wedding fund into this company, and I bought it at, I think, £1.80. It dropped to 80p within days.
Wow.
And continued dropping as well.
Did it ever go back up?
No.
Oh, no.
I sold out, I think around 50, 60p. And then shortly after I sold out, which was more luck than judgment, if I'm honest, I just panicked. Sold out, got some of my money back, Not long after that, the company froze.
Oh God.
And I think they might actually still be in that state now.
Wow.
Luckily, I got other funds available to pay for the wedding, so the wedding went ahead. So my
How long ago was this?
my now wife, when was that? We got married in I should know this. We got married in 2014, so it'd have been back end of 2013. Yeah, luckily we got other funds, so the wedding went ahead. Now, wife and mother to my 3 amazing children. So it all worked out in the end.
I'm good. I'm glad, mate. I'm glad. So funds we've spoke about, so FTSE 100, S&P 500. Is there anything else? And I know we said about NFTs, so I'm guessing crypto's not one to get into.
Look, for me, right, okay, my issue with digital assets and cryptocurrency and NFTs, it's become too trendy, okay? And when something becomes too trendy, it becomes dangerous because when butchers and bakers and candlestick makers are telling you where to put your life savings, you either need to run the other way or do a lot of your own research.
Yeah.
Prime example, I saw something a few months ago, some ex-Love Island reject, she'd sold an NFT of her tits.
Nice.
Which, yeah, if you're into that. But again, it's become a status thing with NFTs. So like people are buying them for the wrong reasons, and I don't think many people actually understand what an NFT is.
No.
All an NFT is, it's code. That's it. And it's code on the blockchain, and I'm far from an expert on this, just from the bit of research that I've done. And NFT stands for non-fungible token, which basically means it's one of a kind. So it's like buying art. It's like buying anything. Like, you could sell me that sign for 10,000 quid, okay? I'll give you 10 grand because I think that's worth 10 grand. It's actually worthless. It's only worth as much as I think it's worth. So unless I can find some other fool that's going to pay me more than 10,000 quid, I've lost money. And that is my issue with NFTs. And there's a story, have you heard the story about the Jack Dorsey tweet, the first tweet?
No, of course.
Right, so Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, sold his first tweet as an NFT. I think he just said, I've set up my Twitter or something like that. And the guy that bought it, I think he paid $2.9 million US for it.
Wow.
This ain't a muppet, right? This is a guy that owned a $1 billion blockchain company. So arguably, if anyone's gonna get it right, it's him.
Right.
Tried selling it 6 months later. He couldn't get $14,000 US for it. So this is my argument with NFTs.
Yeah.
Everyone's an expert, right? But if he can't get it right, what makes you think you can?
Yeah, I've heard many stories about that. Justin Bieber bought one months and months ago, and now he can't. He bought it for millions of pounds, and now he can't sell it for anything.
Yeah.
And I will put my hand up. I impulsively bought a few NFTs, and now they're worth absolutely fuck all.
But it's same with cryptocurrency as well. So like
with crypto though, there's obviously you've got Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are more developed, and I feel like they're more established, and then you've got the rest of them that aren't very established, and you don't know what the fuck's going on. Do you think Bitcoin is a worthy investment, or do you still think no?
It's not an investment.
Go on,
it's a
explain.
punt. So for me, look, save. So 3 things you can do with your money: saving, speculating, investing. So saving is just putting money in the bank.
Yeah.
It's only ever going to go backwards. But we all need that, as we've discussed earlier. We all need that emergency pot. We all need that rainy day money should the proverbial hit the fan. Secondly, speculating. So for me, speculating is buying something what has no inherent value to you today.
Okay.
You buy a gold bar, you buy a Bitcoin, right? You can hold that for 1,000 years and it'll never earn you a penny, okay? Until the day you come to sell it in its entirety in order to eat, okay? So you have to sell that in the hope that some other fool will pay you more money than what you paid for it. But for that 1,000 years you've held it, it's not earning you a bean. For me, that's not investing.
Right.
Investing is buying something what gives you 2 bites of the cherry. Okay? So while you hold it, it pays you an income. Then the day you come to sell it, hopefully, it's grown in value, that's your capital growth as well. So you've got 2 ways of making money on it. And for me, there's only really 2 ways of doing that. One is property. You buy a property, you rent it out, that's your income. When you come to sell it, you would hope that the value of that property increase, that's your capital growth. or invest in the stock market. You own a fund, you own companies on the stock market, they pay dividends, which is a share of their profit. Yeah. That's your income. Again, your day you come to sell it, the stock market's increased in value, that's your capital growth. So, and this is where, like I said, my issue with cryptocurrencies comes, it's not an investment, it's a currency. That's all it is. A cryptocurrency is a means of trade. And
so have you got any cryptos?
I have a little. Listen, it's play money, and I did it.
And that's the thing. Like again, you're the expert on this, but I've spoke to many people, and I always said, if you're gonna do it, just put a little bit in that you can afford to lose. Don't be putting your life savings into crypto. And
the only reason I did it was more a social experiment because all my clients were talking about it.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about it.
But you've got to say though, some of the returns that you've seen are absolutely insane. Like that's not that I invested in it myself, but you saw that Shiba and Dogecoin go from like 0.00001 to like 0.001.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But that's the thing. But
again, like that happening again is like 1 in a million.
But they also quite easily go the other way.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And this is what people don't understand.
Yeah.
When people say the stock market's too risky, so I'm buying cryptocurrency. It's like it's not.
Yeah,
and
it's about as risky as it gets.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, it's not an investment. It's just a means of trade. That's all it is. It's a currency.
Yeah.
But it'll never be used as a currency. Again, this goes against popular belief. It will never be used as a currency until it actually becomes regulated. Which is the whole sell of cryptocurrency that it's unregulated. Yeah. As we're seeing at the minute.
Do you think that won't happen then?
I think it will eventually.
Right.
Because look at the FTX scandal, what's going off at the minute.
No, it's mad that.
So people have lost a lot of money. $8 billion has $8 billion has just disappeared. Now I'm sure probably by the time this comes out, we'll know a lot more about it and what's actually happening then and where that money's gone. But how has that been allowed to happen? It's unregulated.
Yeah.
So you play with fire, there's a chance you're going to get burned.
No, I agree, definitely. I think, like I said, you put in what you can afford to lose.
Yeah, but like I said, for me, the only reason I bought crypto, it were only really Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a couple $100 and a few other ones, which I literally just picked from a list.
Which has got the best name.
Pretty much, yeah. But it was more a social experiment because
no, I get that.
I got clients talking about it, I knew nothing about it, and I just thought the easiest way to learn this is put a bit of skin in the game.
Yeah. And at the minute everything's
on
its arse, but yeah. No, brilliant, thank you. I guess the last thing to ask is, you've given some really, really good advice, and I'm sure the advice you've given will help a lot of people, and I hope it helps them, financially and then mentally. Is there anything else that you want to add? Anything else you'd give advice to help people, either build up that nest egg or, pay that credit card off or any other way you can help that'll, help people financially?
Just keep it simple. So like I said, your first stage is just take responsibility for where you're at. You're in the position you are because of the choices you have made in life to get there, okay? And like I said, I'm not saying that to bash your over head with a stick. The second you actually take responsibility for that, it's empowering because it gives you that power back to be able to do something about it.
Yeah.
That's first thing. Secondly, draw a line in the sand. There's no point crying over spilt milk. So what's happened has happened, good or bad. So draw a line in the sand and just work out a plan moving forward of how you're going to get out, if you're in a hole, how you're going to get out of that hole, which will then help your mental health, help you feel better, and help you feel happier about your situation. And like I said, just stop arguing with reality. Like in reality, for me, stress and anxiety comes from sort of this friction that you've got of your reality of I've only got 100 quid in my bank account versus I should have more. There's nothing you can do about that other than moving forward. So it's sort of realising where you're at, and then it's sort of putting a sort of, if you're in debt, get your debt cleared off. Once you're out of debt, get 6 months expenses saved in a separate bank account. What's a little bit more difficult for you to touch, that's your emergency pot. Once you've got your emergency pot, sit down and work out why you're investing and work out what you're investing for. Put a figure on that and then funnel it back to today, which will then help you stick to it for the long term when the market's a little bit rocky like it is now, or when it's Christmas, or it'll stop you saying, I'll not do it this month, but I'll do it next month, because you won't. Like you won't invest double next month just because you've spent more this month. So you need to make that a priority. And like I said, you need to put some real emotional ties around it. And realise that if you don't put that money away this month, there's a chance that when little Jimmy turns 18, you're not going to have enough money to be able to fund his university course, to be able to pay for his rent for the year, to be able to pay for his living costs. So what's the implication of that? Well, the implication of that potentially is that he can't go to university when he's 18. Or he's got to get 3 part-time jobs to pay for it, which what will that do? That'll affect his studies, which means at the end of university, he doesn't come out with as good a grade. What does that then mean? Well, that then means potentially he'll not get as good a job as he would have done if he'd have got the grades. So you need to really think about short-term pain for long-term gain, I suppose, is the way of looking at it, and then stick to it. And then, and don't turn into Warren Buffett. Don't try picking the best companies on the market. Don't get into Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, NFTs, any of that shit. Just buy a fund what tracks the market and just let it do its thing. And when you've got good months and you've got bad months, just set a standing order up day after payday that automatically invests for you, your 100, your 200, your 500, 1,000 quid a month, whatever it is you're putting away, and just keep it going. And don't be logging on every day, because there'll be good days, there'll be bad days. And in the short term, the stock market bounces around, but over the medium to long term, it only ever goes in one direction, and that's up.
Is it about 10% average? The S&P 500 returns?
It depends sort of what time frame you're looking at, but
over the last 100 years, is it? On average, it's been 10%.
It's like 8% at the minute.
But
again, anyway. If you put the money in and just keep it going in, it's just an easy way of making money.
Brilliant.
And what we're going through at the minute with the recession and everything, and the other thing I'd say as well, ignore the news. Because, like I said, what they don't tell you in the news is that a recession is completely normal. It's and the market cycle needs it in order just to rebalance again. But if you're investing for the medium to long term, it's actually a good thing, because every time what follows a recession is a recovery, i.e. things are going to get better, we're going to come out of this bigger and stronger. And like I say, if you are investing for the long term while the markets are down, guess what you're buying? You're buying more. You're buying more units cheap, you're buying more shares cheap. So it's actually a great thing if you're looking at it with a long-term view.
Yeah, brilliant, lovely. No, thank you very much for joining me today.
Likewise,
like
pleasure.
I said, I do believe that the advice you give will help a lot of people, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me, mate.
Awesome.
Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Cheers.